Hey, Jessica, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. I guess just right off the bat, it's been just over a year since you made history taking part in the first all female spacewalk. And now you could be making history here again as one of the first women to perhaps land on the moon. What does that feel like?
It's an incredibly exciting time to be an astronaut. And I can say, having just completed my first mission, it's a real game changer when that dream finally comes true and you're actually in space looking down at the Earth. And now to be looking forward to these future missions toward our exploration back on the moon and then eventually onto Mars, I mean, it's even more of a dream come true from the visions I had as a child. We're on that path.
Absolutely incredible. And you're obviously from Caribou, and you became an astronaut in somewhat of a untraditional way as a biologist, right? But you ended up finding success like this. Do you ever look back and say, "Wow, I'm actually here"?
All the time. Yeah, it's funny when we're on the other side of this on the camera or giving a talk to people or up there floating on the International Space Station. Sometimes it's even surreal for us. I felt that a lot during my mission when I would be in the cupola looking down at the Earth, floating all the time. And I would think, is this real? How can this be real that I am up here floating above the entire planet and everybody else I know is down there? When you're up there, we're a very busy schedule. We're working pretty hard all the time. So sometimes, like anyone else, you just get caught up in what you're doing. But then when you have those moments to reflect, you do sometimes have to pinch yourself and think, wow, this is actually happening.
I guess, why is this mission so special, maybe compared to the last one to you?
Going to the moon is really the next step in our human spaceflight exploration. We've had this continuous human presence on the space station now for 20 years. And we have a lot of experience, decades of data teaching us so much about what it takes to work and live successfully for long durations in space. It just makes sense that now this next step is to go further than low Earth orbit, to go back to the moon and to eventually go on to Mars. And that's the way that we do things at NASA. We do things in an incremental fashion, always making sure that we take those lessons learned and all of that experience gained from the previous missions to propel us as a jumping point off into the future. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're ready for that next leap now. We're ready to expand our presence, to go back to the moon, and then to learn all of the lessons there, demonstrate the technologies that we need to then go further to Mars. So incredibly exciting that we are really on this trajectory now to return to the moon.
Yeah, you mentioned lessons learned. Are there any lessons you learned growing up in the county that kind of translate to space and maybe even the moon eventually?
Yeah, I would say all throughout my life, growing up and throughout my education, there are so many lessons learned. And one of those for me as a scientist is just this power of thinking critically and solving a problem and understanding and using the scientific method. And I think that that actually is something that maybe I didn't realize it at the time, but did start sinking in even when I was a child growing up in northern Maine. For me, I think one of the reasons why I was so captivated by becoming an astronaut was just this spirit of exploration. I had this natural curiosity about the world around me. I was fortunate to grow up somewhere where surrounded by trees and lakes and lots of nature, and I had an appreciation for that, I think thanks to my mom, to understand and ask questions and want to know more about this world around me. And so I think all of those, just that natural curiosity, I would say from childhood, is still one of the most important things because we're learning new things every day as astronauts.
For sure. And of course, now you have quite the following online included and on social media. There's always critics. What do you say to the people who say, why are you doing this during a pandemic?
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course, we're dealing with a lot of things in our country right now that really do demand a lot of attention, a lot of resources, and we need to continue doing that. But at the same time, we can't just all halt right in our tracks. We need to keep doing the things that make our country great, that make our economy great. We need to continue on with our work and with our jobs. So for us as astronauts, that means continuing to train and support the missions that we're on right now. Like we said, we've had a continuous presence on the space station for 20 years. We can't let that lapse just because of other things that we're dealing on the planet right now. And so we're continuing to support those space station missions. We're continuing to work with our international partners, the Russian Space Agency, the Japanese, European, Canadian space agencies. And we're continuing to fly and to continue to test on these new vehicles with more flights on the SpaceX vehicle and hopefully soon flights on Boeing's vehicle as well to the space station. So we're supporting all these things we need to keep pushing forward. And I think that's mainly for space exploration in general and why we're going to the moon. For me, it boils down to three main areas. One is exploration, and that is absolutely an inherent part of us as humans. If we hadn't continued to explore this planet, we would have never even discovered all of the continents. It's just part of us as a human to continue to expand that. And that next step is the moon. For me as a scientist, there's clearly a very strong scientific argument. First of all, even just for basic science, we know that so often some of the most incredible results come from an unanticipated outcome of something else that we're doing. So we need to keep that moving forward in terms of all the different types of science that will be carried out in space, and particularly the wealth of scientific data that going back to the moon will provide. We are still learning new things from the Apollo samples that we obtained. And the Apollo missions drastically changed our view of the solar system. There's so much still yet to discover. And I think, thirdly, you think about all of these, even beyond all of these other benefits beyond exploration and science. And those are some of the untangible things. The Apollo missions were absolutely pivotal in stimulating this involvement and participation in all of the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, math, and that had lasting ramifications all throughout our society still to this day in sectors far beyond that of space exploration.
Great. And there's, of course, that iconic saying, the one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And when you kind of bring up the fact that you are a woman and could perhaps be making history here, you often point to the women who came before you, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's an important thing to remember. There's a lot of attention drawn to that moment, the first thing, the first all female spacewalk for me on my mission. And that, we look at it as not a personal achievement for us, because it is really those generations of women and other minorities that came before us for decades before us. Those were the ones that really had to do the hard work. We definitely did not have a seat at the table then. And of course, we still have room to grow now. But I hope that these kinds of achievements are truly celebrated by them, because they're the reason why I might get to go to the moon, or my other female astronauts might get to go to the moon. They're the reason why. And now it just makes sense. If you're designing a team, you're picking the best people to carry out this mission. It's going to end up being some women as well as some men. We are all going to be equally represented, because that's just where we are now. If you want the best people to do the job, chances are some of them probably will be women.
What is your message to Maine kids watching right now, especially that little girl in first grade in Caribou?
I think my first message is saying thank you to everybody that supported me all throughout my childhood. It's a pretty isolated, remote place, but I think I'm proof now that you can do anything that you dream. And that sounds kind of trite, but it really is true. And I know that sometimes it helps if you can identify with someone in some way. Did they look like you? Did they grow up where you did? Did they have some of the same experiences? That helps you realize that you truly can achieve anything. I was just like you. I was growing up there. I was exploring around me. I was attending school and trying to learn as much as I could. And in the end, all of that effort and all of that paid off in the long run. So dream big and you can achieve.
All right, I think we're nearing our time here. Is there anything else you think I missed that you want to talk about?
There's loads to talk about, of course, but I think we captured the big points.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your time, Jessica, and wish you all the best.
All right. Thanks so much, Zach. Take care.